Hi, darlings. My name is Ruth Westcott. I've been asked by Basic Income Calgary to answer a few questions about basic income. The first one is about what does basic income mean to me? I'm glad you asked. Since I've been on social assistance for a long time, I have some very strong opinions about that subject, and I love talking about basic income. On social assistance for 28 years, I was like everyone else I knew, getting sicker and sicker and more disabled the deeper my poverty got, and there was no way out of that. So I was really fortunate to get enrolled in the pilot. Incidentally, in the pilot, the income of disabled people on social assistance was increased to the poverty line. And that's significant because on disability, we don't get a fraction of that. And so the results were often miraculous, of course, and they were for me. I got well enough to work. And I did. I went to work on this really amazing project called Basic Income Speaker School. It was a peer-only project that was designed to teach public speaking and help people load their stories about being on basic income into social media. So we could even bypass the media, which is a really powerful set of skills to have and something that I love to do. So we had people from all around the world come to find out what we were doing. And that's how I met Dr. Evelyn Forget. She's in the documentary about Mincome, and she's amazing because she gets it. She understands how having economic security gives you autonomy, and it gives you empowerment, and you can take back your life. And there are 1,000 people in Thunder Bay in the pilot, and we took back our lives in 1,000 different ways. I think the adequacy of the rates and the lack of state interference explains why it works so beautifully to lower the stigma, to eliminate the stigma that people feel. And everybody talked about that. They talked about how their sense of dignity was restored in the pilot. It's so key to well-being. I'm being asked what draws me to basic income, what were my hopes? Well, I got to hear I got to hear former director of Mincome, Ron Heichel, do public speaking at a conference on basic income, and he's amazing. He's such a great performer. He's such a great public speaker. He's had an amazing career. But he talks about the basic income pilot in Manitoba and how the costs of healthcare in the community were reduced very significantly. So I'm interested in how especially mental health and addictions are affected in the people in the pilot all around me. And addictions are a very touchy subject. As you can imagine, some people told me they didn't want to give us more money because if we were addicted, we would spend it on drugs. And so we need to be able to address that question. And I think what you need to know is that people did well, and when they felt less stigma and they felt less ashamed, they were more likely to seek help and get help. And we had people in speaker school talk about going to pain management classes, lowering the amount of drugs, the illegal drugs they were buying, getting on appropriate medications that help them manage their pain, and becoming much different kinds of citizens. And that's what we want. So this works. Senator Hugh Segal also talks about a significant change that happened in Kenya in the pilot there, where crime was reduced by some kinds of crime by 50%. So there's going to be a savings in prisons. And he's interested in that because he's from Kingston and there's so many prisons in Kingston. I'm interested in the human costs. I want to ask, what does it mean when the government can wave its hand and raise the rates and people get well enough to work after 3 decades? That's theater of the absurd. We have to do this. But there's so many reasons that we have to do it. And there are challenges too. So I want to talk about that. In Ontario, not everybody was going to be better off in the pilot. So if you had kids, and if you had debt, and if you had social housing, and if you had extraordinary costs to accommodate your disability, you weren't necessarily going to be better off. And we have to take care of those people. I'm here to make sure that we do. So that's really important, and that's one of the challenges. Obviously, basic income doesn't solve the need for adequate, affordable housing. That's a huge crisis all across the country. So I'm getting asked, what can we do? Because it's a good idea, and people want to know. Well, I'm the perfect person to ask that. And I have 3 things that you can do. The first thing is you can join the Ontario Basic Income Network. That's easy. You can just Google me and look me up. That's Ontario Basic Income Network. And if you're outside of Ontario, you can join Basic Income Canada Network. Please look us up. The second thing that I'm working on is the Basic Income Day at Queen's Park. That's our legislature. And I'll be in charge of training volunteers that we recruit to go and talk to MPPs and MPs. And I have some retired politicians, some retired MPs who are helping me, and some other people. We have a fabulous team, so if you're interested, get in touch. That is through OBIN as well, Ontario Basic Income Network. I think what's important about that project is that the training we have is really, really good, so that we have a unified voice across Ontario and across Canada. So if you're interested in that approach, which is different than some other approaches people might take with politicians, I realize. This is a very diplomatic approach. Please consider volunteering with us. So the third thing is that anybody can join the conversation about basic income. And if you're interested in hosting an event about basic income, you can get access to free materials and this amazing documentary that we use by contacting me, Ruth, at bigexperience.org. So the documentary that we're talking about is called The Manitoba Story, and it's a 20-minute movie. And then we have some other ideas of ways to have a discussion or play a game or other things that are really helpful for giving people evidence and then letting them think about it and make up their own mind. That's how we like to do things. And if you're interested and are looking for a venue, we like working in the libraries. I'm in the library right now. This is where I hosted Basic Income Speaker School, in this room. And we like libraries for lots of reasons. One reason is because they will insist that our events be nonpartisan. Again, that's how we do things. And a lot of disenfranchised people that I know already come here. And I want to mobilize their vote, but that's another video for another day. I think it's worth saying, too, that the library already has a social media platform that reaches millions of people, so we can advertise our events. Okay, so is there anything else that I want to talk about? 2 more things. One is that I am self-employed today as a social impact producer. I help filmmakers create social change, and one of my clients is Floyd Marinescu, who funds my work with the film and with libraries. And he launched a very successful campaign called, sorry, I have to get rid of the screen, called CEOs for Basic Income. And he just wrote a piece for the Financial Post about why 120 CEOs representing $2.3 billion in income support basic income. What they know is that 1% of Canada has increased their share of national income by 54% since 1982. And that's just going to get worse as artificial intelligence and automation increase. And it will result in worsening poverty. So, but Code Red is a very good study that came out of Hamilton that says the poorest in that community in Hamilton are already dying 20 years prematurely like 10 years ago, and it's worse now, and it's not okay. I think my job is to try to talk about my experience and try and prevent premature deaths. That's why I do what I do. And these CEOs know that basic income is a solution to that. And it's a solution that leads to more innovation. That's why they like it. And it leads to more self-employment. Amen for that. And the last thing I want to talk about is affordability. That's a big question, right? So I have something to say about that. Did you know that Canada is only number 24 of the 36 richest countries in the world in social spending? We're not even at the average. So we spend a lot of money. We spend 17.6% of our gross domestic product on social programs. But that's 3% lower than the average of the 36 richest countries. If Canada chose to spend the $30 billion it would take to move every Canadian living in poverty out of poverty, Canada would only be approaching the average of those 36 countries. In other words, it's neither impossible nor even exceptional to envision a Canada without poverty. The cost of poverty clocks in about 2.7% of the GDP. So, and we know that we could recoup most of that cost. A basic income in Canada has the potential to take everyone out of poverty, and that's the choice in front of us. Thank you for listening to me today.